Hello. I'm back as I promised. Welcome to Baking with Ms.O Culinary segment. All right, you guys, I have to be honest. I'm using my iPhone and I don't know how to upload to a computer. So this is going to be a 15-minute session, which I don't want it long and drag out. And also I had to take some notes because I noticed when I'm cooking, I'm always leaving an ingredient out. And then down in the description box below, I have to come back and post it. So I'm going to try to be informative as I can. And I'm going to give you a little background history on me. I don't know everything. No baker or no cook knows everything. As a cook or a baker, you learn as you go. Like today, I can't believe this. I did not know minced meat, like you do for pies, literally has beef in it. It has some form of beef in it. I thought it was just apples, raisins, currants. No, it literally has meat. I never knew that. But anyway, I started my business called Kingdom Barbecue Catering Service in 2010. The catering business was going well, but I noticed that I was getting a lot of requests for weddings. I've never done weddings. I didn't know how to set up a table as far as how it should be set up for weddings, and with weddings, that's a person's special day, and you definitely don't want to mess that up. So, of course, I had to turn them down. If you can't do a job that represents your brand right, turn it down. There's nothing like a bad name on your business. So with that being said, I decided to go to culinary school, which my family was like, yeah, right. So I enrolled in Le Cordon Bleu. I was there for 2 years, got my associate. I was on the honor roll. And I did my internship at Biltmore. Biltmore is a nationally known Vanderbilt, Gloria Vanderbilt, which has died. That is part of her family's legacy. So I internship there. I think it was like 6 months. And I was fortunate enough with a team. We did a $500,000 wedding. We did a $250,000 wedding, which it just blew my mind how people spend money on weddings, and the elegance of weddings is just, it was mind-blowing to me. I had never seen anything like that. So with that being said, I do know a little. I don't know a lot. I'm still learning. That's a process that all of us still need to be doing. But with that being said, we're going to talk about baking. And we're going to talk about baking as an art form. The type of baking I'm talking about, of course, you can bake chicken, you can bake a casserole. I'm strictly talking about like you're baking desserts. In baking, there are just, let me get this right. There are a few ingredients that you need for baking. Once you get those few ingredients in whatever you're baking, and that's the reason they call it an art form. From there, you could take it to the sky. You can create such beautiful cakes, beautiful cupcakes. They can become masterpieces. That's the reason it's called the art of baking, because it can literally turn into art when you see it on a plate. But there's 3 things that I know for sure that will mess up your baking. Number 1, I think I said this before. Never, ever, when you're doing your flour, stick it in the container and pull it out and level it off. Flour must be spooned in. You spoon it in until it gets to the top, then you level it off. If you don't do that, you will have more flour than the ingredients call for. Rest assured when I tell you, it can mess up your desserts. Another thing, Most people do this. I've been guilty of it. But the correct way to measure, there is a liquid cup and then there's a semi-liquid cup. Whenever you're doing oil, milk, anything that is fluid, you always need to use a liquid cup. This is a liquid cup. And here are the measurements, if you can see that. And you always sit it down and you want to pour your liquid and you look at it from eye level. This also can mess up your desserts because you will have too much liquid for what the recipe calls for. This is a semi-liquid cup. This is what you use for sugar, flour, sour cream, yogurt. This is semi-liquid cup. This is the only thing. You don't put oil in here. That's fluid. You don't put milk in here because that also would give you the wrong measurements for your ingredients. And with your measuring spoons, it is okay to take this cup here and stick it in your sugar and level it off. That's fine. You can do that. It's okay to take brown sugar and dip it in your container, pack it, then level it off. It's okay to do it in this. But flour and confection sugar, you need to spoon out, then level it off, and your ingredients will be right. Also, with your measuring spoons, it is okay. Let's say you have baking soda and you need a half a teaspoon. You can stick it in the box, then level it off. That's okay. Salt, you can do the same way. Stick it in, level it off, and that's okay. The only thing you don't want to do when sticking it in the container is the flour and the confection sugar. Okay, another thing that somebody can post a recipe and one of your subscribers make it. They'll say it's a bad recipe. No, most of the time it's not. It's really the baker. You have to temp your oven. You need to get an oven temperature and you need to make sure what your oven thermometer at the top is reading is also what the thermometer that you bought and put in the oven is reading. Most of the time, your ovens are off by 5 to 15 degrees, and that can make a big, big difference. So I want to make sure that I'm covering everything. You know, I hate to, okay, I told you about the granulated sugar. Yes, you can dip in. The baking powder and the baking soda, yes, you can dip in the container and you can level it off. Confection sugar, you must spoon in. The flour, you must spoon in. For all liquids, you have to use a liquid measuring cup. Semi-liquids, you can use this semi-cup right here, semi-liquid cup. So make sure you get those two right. Check your oven temperature and dry ingredients equivalents. I will post that down in the description box below so you guys can have that and print that. But the main baking ingredients that most bakers use is baking powder. That is a leavening agent, and so is baking soda. A leavening agent means it makes your desserts rise. Baking powder will rise on its own. Baking soda has to be mixed. It has to be paired with something in order for it to rise. Let's say you do a cake and it calls for milk, it calls for oil. That activates the baking soda. But the baking powder, once you put it in, it's going to activate on its own. Remember, those are leavening agents to make your desserts rise. Also, you know, cornstarch is a thickener. Most baking products require eggs, flour, milk, and salt. Salt always enhances the flavor. The correct amount of salt enhances the sweetness and the flavor. And something I had been doing wrong, which I am sorry, do not use coarse kosher salt. I'm guilty. I've been doing that. That's not correct. Use kosher salt, but get the fine grain. Finely grained, I think it's finely grained kosher salt. The coarse kosher salt, I had made some cookies, and every time I would bite into the cookie, I would taste the salt, and I'm like, okay, I'm tasting this salt here. You know, what's wrong? The coarse kosher salt will not break down in baking. So please use either sea salt or the finely ground, I think it's finely ground kosher salt. Do not use the coarse. It will not break down in your baking. And I'm thinking that is pretty much it. I'm going to give you the dry ingredients equivalents, so you can have that and maybe print it off. And I'm also going to leave what the flour does, what the butter does, what the milk does to your baking ingredients. So that way you can have a knowledge of, if something go wrong with my cake, check the oven temperature, check your leavening agents, baking powder, baking soda. Make sure they have not expired. That's another thing. We have ingredients that, especially your leavening agents, if they have expired, go buy a new one. Don't waste all of your ingredients on expired baking powder or baking soda, especially when you're baking. And we know cornstarch is a thickener. And I'm going to have to talk about cornstarch. I know a lot of people use cornstarch as a slurry, but if you have a liquid and if you will reduce it, it will thicken up and it will intensify the flavor. If you reduce your liquid and not use a corn slurry, you will get the thickness and a great flavor. But that's on another video. But anyway, you guys, I hope this helps with the baking. I'll come back. I don't know if I'll be able to do it every week because business is picking up, and I had to really scramble to get this in, because you guys also know I started a company called Queen of Scones. So I'm selling scones, I'm shipping scones, you know, Ms.O trying to get it in. I'm gonna be honest, you know. There's a market out there for people who really don't like to cook. And if your food is good and you're honest, they don't mind paying for it. I'm just gonna be honest. But anyway, God bless you guys. I will see you next week with another video. Not for sure what I'm gonna make. But also, let me say this in honesty. Whenever I post a video, and if there's not the ingredients and the instructions in the description box, that means that recipe has to be tweaked. So I presented it, but for me, it wasn't up to my standard. Just being honest. So when you see it and you don't see the ingredients and instructions, it's not up to my standards. All right, you guys, God bless you. Enjoy your Saturday, and I will see you